Good morning. So today we are going to talk a little bit about prepping. I've been getting a lot of comments on the channel lately. Danno, are you a prepper? Do you prep for the future? Of course I do. I've never really called it prepper before. As a matter of fact, before I started my channel, I didn't even know it was really a thing. It's been a way of life for me for years. I'm always, every time I find a good deal out there, I'm always buying up canned goods. And most of you know who watch the channel a lot, you know, we go through all the different prices at the grocery stores trying to save money. Okay, so today, been getting a lot of emails lately on doomsday preppers, I guess you would call them. So it's something that I feel we need to talk about because it's something that's pretty important. We have a lot of people on the channel who are diehard preppers, and I gotta admit, I didn't really know where I was gonna go with this video, but I did want to talk about it, and I figured no better place to talk about it than out here in the open world, because this is what we're gonna need. In case of a lights out situation, this is definitely what we're gonna need to learn. Some of these survival skills, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. You know, if there ever is a lights out situation, how would we survive? Think about it. We wouldn't even be able to use our phones. It would be crazy. We would need to learn or, you know, understand some skills that we would need to prepare. A couple things, first things that come to mind is, well, I might need to get my fishing poles out of the closet. We're going to learn, you know, we're going to need to build fires, which, you know, I'm pretty good at. My younger years. I think this video is going to be a lot of kind of who I am and what I've grown to be over the years. A lot of my younger years, I would camp for weekends at a time, all the time, all summer long. So I have a little bit of an understanding of, you know, what would we do? You know, I grew up in an age where cell phones were just coming out when I was a little kid, to the masses, you know, and I never really thought about, you know, in today's age, what would we do without our phones or power? And it's crazy to think about. It really is. And thank you to all of you who've been sending me these emails. I've kind of dived into some of the videos that some people have sent me. I'm not going to leave any links to these videos. Also, let me say here that I'm not trying to scare anybody by talking about these things, but it is something we need to think about. It is something that goes on in my mind of things that maybe in the future, things that can happen, might happen. I don't want to say will happen, even though that is the Darwin theory. Anything that can happen will happen. But it's good to kind of think about these things. And because this is a lot of the stuff that I cover all the time in the grocery stores, and, you know, it's all about saving money on food. That is, you know, where our channel has gone over the last couple of years. But me and Jessica were talking about a couple things the other day. And one thing that's always good to do is prepare on food. You never know when there's going to be a bad situation, whether it's lights out situation or anything. It's good to stock up on some things, especially when you find a good price on them. You know, with rising prices in the stores, it's crazy. Sorry, there's a plane going overhead here. I'm on this nice little walk path. Looks like they're doing some work back here. I don't know if they're going to build like a playground or something, but I wanted to come out here to get some fresh air because this is a subject that's a little uncomfortable for me talking about. Because again, I always try to show the light at the end of the tunnel. Well, there's been no end of the tunnel as far as inflation and grocery store prices and stuff like that. And, you know, we have tens of thousands of people on our channel now that are asking me to talk about some of this stuff. So I figured I would make an entire video dedicated to what I think of some of this stuff is. Sorry if the camera's a little shaky. I'm not used to walking around filming my face, Usually we're looking at grocery items and stuff. And also I got my microphone up here. It's a little windy, so there's a little bit of wind noise. I apologize for that. But the one thing I will say is it's always good to prepare. Always. And it's not just preparing for maybe food and stuff like that. It's about preparing your mind. Preparing your mind, because this is a mindset that you have to understand that it's not just going to be you in this type of situation. It's going to be everybody around you. I've always been that kind of person to get to know my neighbors. That's a very good idea. It's a good idea to get to know your neighbors, because in a situation where power is out, you know, if that ever happens, whether it be a solar flare or things outside of our reach, you know, we got all these toys, you know, we always hear of the EMP and all that stuff. And again, I don't want to scare anybody with that, but it's things that we had to think about in this day and age, and more reasons to prepare. I get a lot of people on the channel that are afraid to talk about prepping and stuff like that because they feel it gives them a bad name. Don't feel that way. I almost feel like we should call it something else, because if a lot of people feel that way, well, yeah, you don't want to. I don't know. I guess since I was younger, I had always thought, and I'm kind of all over the place here, but when I was younger, I had a vision a couple different times of a world where if we didn't have power, what would we do? So I have a little bit of an idea just growing up how we would kind of handle this situation. One, you know, everybody has a special skill. I don't care who you are. Everybody has a special skill. And if something ever happens like this, it would be good to enhance that skill some. And I'm not talking about like hunting. You'll have your hunters, you'll have your fishers, you'll have your gardens. People will be growing vegetables like nobody's business if that happens. Another reason I wanted to come out here early, because the light outside is going to be our best friend if a situation like this ever happens. And I just want to, like I was saying, everybody has their special skills. So you could sew if you're good at sewing. Well, there's your skill. In Cincinnati here, we get 6 months of cold weather, and we will need blankets and stuff like that. So it's not a bad idea to hone in on those type of skills. And the one thing that we used to do just over 100 years ago, what was the big thing in America and around the world? Trade. Here, we got deer meat. Hey, you got cloth. You got warmth. We got food. We have vegetation. We have livestock. This is the things that we need to think about now, so that if these things do happen in the future, we've got our mindset for how are we going to contribute, because that is the big thing. But by having bigger numbers, I've always been a believer in love your neighbor, because if a situation happens, we're going to be much stronger together than we are by ourselves. No doubt. I mean, that is that is number one. But, always good to hone in on your fishing skills. Know where the water is. Know where the lakes are. Know where the rivers are. Might not be a bad idea. I haven't renewed mine in a while. I may, at some point, get my fishing license back. I haven't really fished in a long time. I need to get back up on it. I have a bunch of fishing poles just sitting in the closet. Worms come from the ground. So, there's free food for the fish. In turn, free food for you. So, sorry, I kind of just came into this like didn't have a plan, not scripted or anything. None of my videos are scripted, but wanted to talk about this because it seems like it's a concern that a lot of people are worried about. And I don't know if it's something that we have to worry about, but I know it's good to be prepared. I know we have a lot of preppers on our channel, and I think it's very smart. It's smart to always have a supply of food in the background so that if something does happen, and that's not just for, a lights out situation. That's for what if something happens to you? What if something happens and you're not able to shop for yourself, or you're not able to go to the store? Well, you've got some food set aside. I'm a firm believer in buying up a lot of chicken noodle soup. Many different reasons that I've never talked about on the channel. It's a lot of good health reasons. One, soups that you can make and can yourself. Yeah, I mean, that's good and everything, but like for stuff that I make, at least, like different vegetable soups, chicken noodle soup, chicken and dumplings, well, I can them, but I have to freeze them. It's not something that's going to be shelf stable that I can leave out. And these are some other skills that I need to learn. I probably need to learn how to can goods and stuff like that. I know that was another email that I had gotten. Someone had asked if I knew how to can. A little bit. I've never tried it. I've never tried it in the sense that I can make some of this stuff and set it on a shelf, you know. And I do know that, yes, temperature has a lot to do. You know, if you have a basement, and this is something we'll talk about here in a couple minutes, but if you have like a basement, it's always better to keep these things in a cooler, drier place. It will definitely last longer. And, wow, they've really tearing this up here. Look at this. That is crazy. Morning. How are you? Hey, buddy. So, anyway, it's a pretty popular trail back here. But, I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's something that we do have to think about. You know, we need to make sure that we are prepping. Okay, and I'm not afraid to say it either. I know a lot of people don't want to admit it, but we've always been preppers. And I know a lot of you may get upset by me saying that, but I know a lot of you will probably be excited to hear some things about this kind of stuff. I may touch on this a little more. Let me know down in the comments if this is a subject you're interested in. We may try to point out things. We always try to point out sales, but we also mention sometimes it's okay not to worry too much about the price if it's something that's not coming in. We all remember a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, a lot of the stores in Cincinnati were wiped out. A lot of the food, we're seeing meat prices skyrocket because of that 2 years later. And, you know, we just have to realize that this is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to, you know, if stockpiling is your thing, stockpile. You know, especially if you're saving money. I'm all about saving money. You know, we save money on foods and stuff so we can do some of the fun things that we like to do, because you have to have fun. You have to have entertainment. You have to enjoy life. I mean, that's really what life is all about. You know, people, you know, we travel to Gatlinburg, we travel to Orlando or Florida, Sarasota, you know, lots of places. A lot of Jessica's family lives in Florida too, so it's always nice to see them. But a lot of our family, you know, especially on my dad's side of the family, they've always been preppers. They may not call it that, but they've always kind of piled, you know, we come from farmers and gardeners and, you know, a lot of different background on living off the land. One of the videos that I did, we were on a ride called Living with the Land. And I think the reason why I love that so much is because it's very similar to a lot of the things my family has done in the past. We come from a long line of farmers. And again, you know, it feels good to talk about these things with you guys, because I've kind of been wanting to talk about this for a long time. And it took you guys to really get me to open up about a lot of this stuff, because you know, it's not that I didn't want to talk about it, it's how do I talk about it. I finally came to the realization that it doesn't matter how I talk about it, just that I kind of have to get it out there in the open. Morning. And it is, guys, it's something we do have to focus on, because, you know, in the case of any kind of situation, lights out, doesn't matter, something happens in your life and maybe you don't have money. Maybe you run out of money. Lord knows I've been there. And it's, you know, that can of chicken noodle soup looks pretty good when you're broke. And you know, you guys, I've had a lot of people always ask me, damn, why you always talk about Ritz crackers? I have lived off of Ritz crackers and ramen noodles. I've been there some of my younger years, you know, and it's not bad to have those kind of things because it's cheap and it'll keep you full. You know, it really does. You know, one little bag of ramen noodles, I mean, if I had to, I could ration that out to one meal a day if I had to. I know a lot of people can't do that. You know, maybe an apple with it or something. I used to be a lot skinnier. The years have been good to me. But coming into this and seeing a lot of the different emails and stuff that people have sent me, and believe me, okay, I understand. If you don't want to talk about this in the comments on the channel, I understand. I know I have my email set up for business inquiries only, but today I'm kind of just saying that if you want to communicate but you don't want to let people know or send it through a comment, you can email me. I prefer comments on the channel because it's easier to get to. I get 100 emails a day or more, and they're really hard to get to sometimes. Sorry, I'm going to try not to edit this out. I'm trying to keep this as raw as possible. But back to some of the things from the beginning of what we were talking about and preppers and prepping. I think it's very important. It's very important that we don't just prep items, we prep our minds for the future. Okay, I know that may sound crazy, but ultimately that's really what it is. We have to be prepared. We have to, I always say, you know, and going back to your neighbor and family, it's always good to stay close and friendly. You know, if you're mad at somebody, you know, when I was in high school, I always believed that the best thing you could do is become best friends with the biggest person possible, like the biggest muscle-bound guy. That way, if something ever happens, this guy's gonna have your back. And that's what we need to do for each other. You know, I was blessed to have a lot of friends in high school, so it wasn't really an issue for me. But I had friends who would do that. I mean, a lot of, you know, we all had friends that were like, you know, that you had your well, I want to say gangs, but you know, your close friends that they would give their shirt to you off their back, you know, if you needed it. I feel like it's important for all of us to be that way, especially in these times. You know, we are blessed to have all of you on the channel. We have a lot of people that follow us now, and it is a true blessing. And this is one common ground that we can all pretty much agree on, is it's good to have friends because of what we talked about before. Everybody has a special skill. You know, I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I have good luck fishing. I always hear stories, oh, I was out there all day. Well, were you really fishing? Were you hungry? Were you hungry? Because if you're hungry, I can almost guarantee you're going to catch some fish. Because it's going to be different. It's going to be different if you're hungry. But back to the lights out situation. And I know that's probably the title of this video because I feel like it is important for everybody to be aware. If something like that does happen, it's good to prepare. You know, think of some of these things. I know I always hear, like, I do watch some prepper channels, and I always hear buy up batteries, buy up batteries. Yeah, great idea. Buy up batteries and keep them on the back burner. But the one thing that you want that's a lot cheaper and it's going to be better, you know, because batteries you would want to save, right? Candles. Get candles. I don't care where you live. There is some kind of candle outlet online. You can check with Amazon. Get some candles. You know, candles are great. It's low light. Always good to have batteries though for flashlights and stuff like that. But the thing is, and this is another way this is what I'm saying about preparing your mind, is light, daytime is going to be your best friend. So you want to make sure that if something like that ever did happen, you want to prepare to do as less as possible at night, you know. And I know I'm kind of going back and forth with all this. This is my first video talking about this stuff. And again, it's not like I'm uncomfortable talking about it. I am a little not worried, but I hope we get a good response from this video, because I feel it's very important. Like I was saying before, me and Jessica were talking about some things. You know, we live in an apartment, right? We don't have much space. It's funny, I hear people talk about how they live in an apartment, they stuff things under their bed, anywhere that they can, you know, put canned goods and stuff like that. Things you get on a good deal, or even not a good deal. I always say a good deal, but it's like, you know, if you're stockpiling these things just to have for the future, well, you know, I mean, some people may not worry about price, and that's okay too. You know, it's like, if you have the extra money, might not be a bad idea just stocking up on some of these things to know you have in the future. I know I'm walking against the sun now, so it might be a little shaded. We'll turn around here in a second, but just kind of get a different view here. But the one thing me and Jessica were talking about is, how would we have extra space? Because we don't have a house, and we don't want to buy a house right now because the housing market is ridiculous. Thank you to everyone who talked us out of that. We weren't going to buy a house yet anyway. The prices are just too ridiculous. But again, as we edge closer and closer to things being out of control and too expensive, it's really not as bad of an idea. But anyway, back to what me and Jess were talking about. I know I'm kind of going all over here. The more and more I talk about this stuff, the more I'll be comfortable talking about it with you guys. But, you know, we were saying, you know, how do people like us are able to stockpile on things, you know, when you get a good deal or not? She came up with some really good ideas, like a storage unit, you know. And she also said, which I think is very smart, and this is why I love my wife, many reasons, but this is one of them. She's a thinker. And don't ever let anybody know, you know, maybe family or stuff. But, you know, if something like that happened, if we did have a lights out situation, you know, you want to be really careful, you know, because there are bad people out here, and you definitely want to be careful. But I thought that storage unit idea was a great idea, just for putting things away, you know, and it doesn't have to be a huge space, you know. Find one that's cheap, just so you can put it there so you know you got it. She also came up with another great idea. You know, if you have a home, you could buy up a couple of these little, like, mobile barns from Home Depot. I mean, I don't know if that's the most ideal way to go, but that's a pretty good idea. Or if you got the time and you got the land, you could build a little barn somewhere to store all your stuff. I think that's, you know, it's something we definitely have to think about. I know it's something I would probably do if I owned a little bit of land and I needed more areas, because that's the whole idea, is you do kind of want to keep it, you know, food and stuff like that, no matter what it is. And I may be wrong in this, but I would imagine you would want to keep it in a cooler, drier place, at least keep the sun off of it, especially if you're stocking up on, like, water and stuff like that. Any kind of plastic, you want to make sure it's in a cool, dry place. You don't want it being hit with the sun all the time. But anyway, just wanted to go over some of these things. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to do more videos like this. I had a ton of stuff I wanted to talk about here today, but this is kind of just the start of it. So, you know, different types of skills, we went over that. These are the things that we need to think about. What is your special skill? How can you contribute in case there is a lights out situation? Would you be friendly with your neighbor? Would you be quiet? Would you just sit at home? Nah, I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm too outdoorsy type person. Things to, you know, you may think about. I know we don't have much of them anymore. Newspaper. Anytime I've ever camped out, I've always made sure I had a little bit of newspaper. It's an easy fire starter. Lighters. You know, buy up some lighters, have lighters on hand. It's an easy fire tool. If we're ever in a situation like that, you also want to remember to use as less as possible. You know, don't sit there and let your lighter burn out. You know, think first. I know they have other things that you can start fires with easier, like Duraflame and stuff like that, but that stuff's kind of expensive. You know, maybe have just some paper, newspaper, any kind of thing that you can light that's very cheap, you know, to light a fire. Always remember to gather the twigs first. Oh, all our nieces and nephews, they have no idea. They'll go and get a bunch of logs and think you can just light it up. But it's good that we teach. It's good that we teach our younger ones these things. Get away from the phone for a while. Get away from all the electronics. And I know that's hard to do. That's hard to do right now. I mean, I'm on my electronics. You know, things for, if you know, like me, I like to document things. I like to document history as we go along here. You know, it's good to have maybe some backup power supplies. Be impossible to charge in a like blackout situation, but if you have a few of them, I'd be able to get a few charges and record just enough to get my point across. And again, hopefully nothing like this ever happens. Okay, and I know the term for this is doomsday preppers. I don't like that term. I don't like that term because I like to what's a better term we can use? I mean, it's good to have that in the back of your mind, you know, to be prepared. But at the same time, I don't like things sounding ugly, you know, and I'm not saying that's ugly, and it's good to think that way, but I think there's a better way we can say that. And I probably would have had to give me 5 minutes off camera here, and I'll probably have something better. We'll come up with a new term. How about living preppers? I don't know. But we've always been given that question. Are me and Jessica preppers? Absolutely. Absolutely. We, you know, and I know a lot of you guys have figured it out. We are not like stockpiling tons of stuff. We're not canning. Things we need to learn to do in the future. I have watched a couple videos that you guys have sent me. I think it's pretty interesting. And it's good because, like, so the initial, lack of a better word, the initial blast, okay, if something happens, it's good to have a good start, right? It's like, for instance, I wear contacts. It's good to have a lot of contact solution, which I have. I stockpile contact solution because, one, it keeps going up in price. So when I find a good deal on it, I'm buying up a couple more, you know, and that's just, you know, it's smart to do that. Also, I have glasses. I never wear them usually. But that's good. That's what you need. If you need corrective lenses, you definitely want to make sure you have a couple pair of glasses. And good to have like your medicines and stuff like that too, because like what I mean by the initial start of something, if it happens, we will need, depending on how long it lasts, we would need to get through a couple months, maybe a few months, and it would be a lot easier, you know, if we're not having to fish every night, you know, I mean, definitely, but it would be good to get a start on that because to me, that would be how I would help. There's going to be a lot of people, if this happens, that's going to need help. So I'll be out here hunting and fishing and doing my part. And hopefully, you know, the whole trade aspect could really come back into fruition if this happens. So, you know, again, I don't want it to sound scary or anything like that, but the world's crazy these days and you just never know what can happen. And again, you know, you just got to be safe, be careful, prep on, you know, as some of you say, and you know, whatever you like to call it. You know, most of you know that me and Jessica, we stock up on a lot of things. We don't show a lot of the things that we stock up on for a couple reasons. One, you know, I will say that a lot of the stuff that I show, like when we go to Sam's Club or Costco, we're stocking up on that stuff. Any canned goods that we use in the future, different meats, you know, we freeze a lot of stuff. But yes, canning, if you can learn to can, that is another way that you can save a lot of money in the future. And if it comes down to that, money's not going to really mean too much because you're not going to be able to go to the bank, right? Because the power will be out, you know, so it's good to prepare for these kind of things. I hear these channels, buy up gold, silver, these are tradable items. Don't oversell, okay, so like this is why I talk about trade, because if you have your special skill, well, food's going to be important, but clothing's going to be important too. So, you know, hopefully all of you who live in Cincinnati or north of here have a bunch of coats, right? There's a lot of things you can use with materials, and you know, over time, some of these skills, and like I said, everybody, I'm just naming one. You know, I was talking about sewers. You know, if you sew, if you do crochet, these kind of things will be very valuable in a situation like this. And I know this video is kind of long. I had a lot I wanted to talk about today because we have been getting a lot of comments on it lately, and I just wanted to share our thoughts. I wanted Jess to be out here talking about it, but I'm sure this is probably something like me. It's a little uncomfortable to talk about because you don't want to have to think about these things, you know. But it's good that we do. It's good, you know, for the future of us and our younger. You know, look at the kids. That's what I think about, guys. You know, I think of my nieces and nephews, and it's like, you know, we got to be there for them. I have had, you know, half a lifetime of having to think about these things, and only probably the last decade where it's become something we really need to think about. Maybe the last 15, 20 years. I don't know. Some people say since the Great Depression. You know, this is something that a lot of people, you know, our grandparents were telling us these stories, you know, and it wasn't uncommon. People canned things all the time. Nobody ever called them preppers. They called them smart people, right? That's it. Let's call it smart people. I've always called people who shop and save, you know, people leave what sales they get at the store, and they leave their city so that people can, you know, if you're from that city, you might be able to find a good deal on something. I've always called those people on the channel, and you know who you are, smart shoppers. Real simple, smart shoppers. Smart people, right, think ahead. And you know, you may not, but if you think ahead in life, then you're going to always be prepared. Like I said again, it's not just about preparing yourself with material items. It's preparing your mind for something. If that happens, you know, if that happens, nobody's going to be ready. I'm not going to be ready. You're not going to be ready. But we can be a little more ready, right? If we think about it and know that what the future holds, if that happens, at least we have it in the back of our mind. Well, you know, this is what I have to do. You know, dig out that fishing pole. I always say fishing because if something like this happens, you would find me at a lake every day fishing, and I would be getting fish for everyone. I would make sure that I'm taking care of my family, my friends, you know, and we would get together. I have friends that we talk about these kind of things, you know, and I do think it's important that we all do. Now, I know some people out there are going to say, you know, and I've gotten comments and emails, and believe me, it's sad that people get angry about that or say, oh, you're crazy and stuff like that. No, don't ever think that. I really don't care if anybody ever said that to me, which surprisingly they haven't, unless some people on the channel that just don't like it. You can't make everybody happy. But, you know, if that happens, you know, who cares? You know, you live your life, let them live theirs. I understand that this is something that is very hard for people to think about, very hard for people to talk about, even me right now. As we go along here, I am feeling more comfortable talking about this with you guys than I probably ever have before. And that's good. That's good because this is a lot of stuff. I feel it. I feel the weight coming off my chest, guys. And again, this video may not be very useful, but it is some information, and I hope it's some valuable information for you. And we will go over some of these things as we go along on the channel. Things that, you know, just think, you know, we're still doing our store videos. Make sure, you know, you check those out. We put out videos every day. I go to the grocery stores, a lot of different main chain grocery stores like Kroger, Meijer, Walmart, places that I know are all around the country and all around the world so that we can try and save money. I will try to point some things out as I go along, like here's a good price. Might want to stock up on that. Really, nothing's changed. That's what I've always done. But now you have this video to use as some kind of documentation of thought, right? Not saying, you know, Not saying there's going to be a lights out situation, but it's good to prepare if something like that happens. But not just that. If something happens to you or a family member, money gets tight, you know, things happen. Things happen in the future, and it's like, you know, sometimes it's out of our control most of the time. So what we have to do is we just have to prepare for those times, because there's going to be a time in your life where it does happen. It has happened in my life. You know, I've had events years ago where I wish I would have been a little more prepared than I am today. And I'm sure everybody can relate with that kind of scenario, that kind of story. But, you know, it's always good. Don't be ashamed to call yourself a prepper, or call it whatever. I know prepper tends to get a bad name sometimes, but I don't know why. I really don't. And that's kind of the answer I've been looking for ever since I started this channel. But that's okay, because we're preparing for the future. Either way, that is what this channel is about, preparing for the future, whether that be saving money at the grocery store or preparing your mind for possible things to come. So, guys, that's going to be it for today. Such a gorgeous day out here. Absolutely beautiful. Got the trees out here. Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Let me know down in the comments if you like this video. Feel free to add to anything that may be useful. Maybe some survival tips, some tactics, things that you may stock up on, things that you don't mind maybe spending a little bit of extra money on to have in the future. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. With all that being said, I am out. And always remember, the adventure is out there.